Hey, what's happening everybody? Welcome back. Electrified Rider here. Today I'm going to be sharing with you how to quickly and easily dial in the suspension system on your veteran Lynx, veteran Sherman-S, and the veteran Patton, which all use the Fast Ace suspension system. This takes all but a few minutes to accomplish, and you only need a few simple tools to get it done. The tools you'll need is a ratchet with an 18mm socket, and you're going to want to get an extended socket because you're going to need that extra room in there, as you'll see in a moment, to make sure you can get it completely over that golden hex bolt that's used to adjust the preload on the Fast Ace suspension systems that are on the veteran wheels. You're also going to need a flathead screwdriver, a ruler that has the millimeter measurement, some tape, I'm using blue painter's tape, but any tape will do, a pen, and a post-it note. You're also going to need something straight and flat if possible, like a piece of zip tie, a stir stick, a popsicle stick, what have you. So you can see the little window there on the side of the wheel where the Fast Ace shock is shown, but the way we access all the different adjustment points is right up here at the top of the wheel, and I am demonstrating this today using the veteran Lynx wheel. So there's a cover on either side of the wheel that we're going to remove. I'm going to first lift up the seat on the wheel so that you get a clearer view, and you just pull these covers back and off. And you can see the length of the hex bolt here, which is how you adjust the preload, which in essence compresses the spring in the cylinder. Now when you receive your veteran wheels with this Fast Ace system, they usually come completely backed off with no preload set. So dialing these in clockwise is going to further compress the spring inside and set that preload for you. And we got the same thing going on over on this side. Now as we dial in the preload on this wheel, we want to make sure that we make the same adjustment on both sides. These need to be even. And the way you can tell where you're at is if you look closely, you can see there's lines going up the preload adjustment. So you want to make sure you have the same number of lines on either side. So this is the first step of dialing in the suspension. You want to make sure that you dial in the preload first before moving on to the second and third step. And as you can see on the top of the preload adjustment, we have a red side and a blue side. The blue side is used for dialing in the dampening, and the red side is used to dial in the rebound. And those are simply adjusted with the flathead screwdriver. Now what we're aiming to accomplish with this first step of adjusting the preload is a 25 to 30% sag in the wheel. That's when you stand on the wheel fully geared. You want your suspension to engage between 25 to 30% of the total travel distance. That's going to allow for travel in the shock system in either direction, which is going to give you that super smooth ride. So most importantly, when you do order your wheel, make sure you order it with the right size shock system. And that's determined according to your weight. Again, fully geared up. So if you wear a backpack, knee pads, shoulder guards, jacket, you want to put all that gear on and weigh yourself prior to ordering your wheel and correlate that with which shock system you want to order. The veteran Lynx comes in 62 pound, 66 pound, and a 70 pound shock. The more you weigh, the higher amount of pounds you want in your shock system, and all that information to help you determine your weight and how it correlates to the shock system will be found on the website where you purchase your wheel. But if you end up ordering a wheel with too lightweight of a shock or too heavy of a shock, it's going to make it a lot more difficult to dial it into that sweet spot that we're looking for, that 25 to 30% sag, by simply standing on the wheel. So make sure you get that part right. All right, so before we move forward here, what we're going to do is make a quick little chart that we're going to attach to the wheel that's going to help us to visually see the amount of sag that we get when we stand on the wheel. And I got to give a quick shout out to the YouTube channel, Is There Any Food? He made a video a while back where he had a guest on that explained the process on how to make this chart, which he also made available on the Electric Unicycle forum, where his handle is Ronnie, R-A-W-N-E-I. So I'm going to leave links to both the YouTube video for Is There Any Food, as well as a link to the forum where Ronnie explained all the details on how to accomplish this. So I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I'm using the information they provided, putting a bit of my own spin on it, and just presenting it in a more visual way, hopefully to help you guys streamline the process here. All right, so we're going to quickly design a sag chart here as outlined in Ronnie's formula on the forum. And then we'll be able to take this and attach it to the wheel to get a visual when we stand on the wheel, how much sag we have, and then we'll use the preload adjustment to dial it in perfectly. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do here is show you exactly how you come up with the 25 to 30% sag number that we will then transpose onto our Post-it note and use as a chart to dial it in. You'll actually be able to forego this step and just follow the instruction when we make our marks on the Post-it note. So the way we find what is the 25% mark of 90 is we're going to do 0.90. We're going to multiply that by 25 equals 22.5. So 22.5 millimeters is 25% of 90. Next we'll find out how many millimeters is 30% of 90. And again, we'll do that by 0.90 times, this time by 30, which is 27. So 27 millimeters is 30% of the available travel in the shock system. So that's both for the Veteran Lynx and the Veteran Sherman-S. Now for the Patton, it only has 80 millimeters of travel in the suspension. So we're going to do 0.80 times 25, which is 20. So 20 millimeters is 25% of the travel available in the Patton suspension system. And again, to figure out the 30% number, it's 0.80 times 30 equals 24. So 24 millimeters is 30% of the allotted travel on the Veteran Patton. All right, so now that we have that information, we can go ahead and make our little chart, our cheat sheet that will stick onto the wheel. So to do this, you're going to need a ruler that has millimeter measurements on it. So I'm just going to move a little ways from the bottom of the Post-it and make a mark at 0 millimeters. Now for 25% sag for the Lynx and the Sherman-S, the number was 22.5 millimeters. So we'll just mark slightly above 22 millimeters. That's going to be our 25% mark. And once again, for the Veteran Lynx and the Sherman-S, 27 millimeters was the 30% mark. So we're going to mark our 27 millimeter location. So now that we got our 3 marks down, we'll just make a straight line across each marking. And now we've got a chart here that we can use. So this bottom line is 0% sag. The second line here is 25% sag. And the third line is 30% sag. So anywhere in between these two lines is going to be the perfect amount of sag when dialing in the preload for the Veteran Lynx and the Sherman-S. So we'll set that aside. Now we'll make a quick chart for the Veteran Patton. So once again, we'll make a mark just above the bottom of the Post-it note, which is the 0 millimeter mark. And then for 25% sag, we came up with 20 millimeters. And for 30% sag, the number was 24 millimeters. And again, we've got 0%, 25%, and 30%. And this would be for the Patton. And this chart for the Lynx and the Sherman-S. And once you got these set, you can save these for later use or to help your friends dial in their wheels as well. So now what you can do, just to give a little bit more rigidity to the paper, is fold it in half like so. And from this point forward, the process is the same for all 3 wheels. You want to head to the front of your EUC. And what we want to do is tape this chart somewhere here on the side of the fender. And it's going to stick better if things are nice and clean. So clean off your wheel, use a little bit of alcohol if you need to get the tape to stick correctly. And stick it on there something like that. Now we're going to take our piece of zip tie here and we're going to tape this onto the fender in alignment with the 0% mark, so right about there. And you really want to get this precise, as close to exact as possible. So just like that, you can see we're lined up at the 0% mark. Now what we're going to do is stand up on the wheel, fully geared up, and we're going to see just how far the wheel sags. Somewhere like a doorway is a great location to do this. All right, so I'll just kind of spring around a little bit. But as you can see, with all of my weight on the wheel, I'm actually beyond the 30% mark, which means we need to tighten down that preload a bit. All right, so by turning the golden bolts here on top of the shock clockwise, what we're doing is further compressing the spring, which is going to create less sag. And we want to make the same adjustment on either side, like I mentioned earlier. So we've got our 18 millimeter socket wrench, and we're going to begin tightening this. So I just did 5 half turns, so we can now move to the other side and do 5 half turns as well. And that's going to give us really close to the same amount on both sides. But again, we're going to double check the amount of lines that we have here at the end. So after you've done that, you want to stand back up on the wheel and see where you're at on the chart. If you're between the 25 to 30% marks on the piece of paper, you're dialed in perfectly. You can move on to the next step. Now, I already know, because I previously dialed this in, that I actually want to bring my preload all the way down on both sides. I'm a heavier rider, and even with the 70-pound shock, I need this preload driven all the way down to compress that spring. So we've got that side all the way down. Now ideally for myself, if I was able to order an even heavier shock, this is the 70-pound, the heaviest that comes on the wheel, then I could go up another level here and not have to drive these all the way down. So if you're like me in that 250-pound range, more than likely you're just going to be taking that preload all the way down, and there it goes. So as you can see, all the lines have disappeared. That spring in this 70-pound shock is compressed to the maximum now. So they're both equal on either side. Let's take it back to the doorway and see where we show up on the chart now. So you just want to make sure everything's still in alignment where it's supposed to be. Give it a couple little bounces. And as you can see, we're just below the 30% mark. We're in between our 25 and 30% sag mark. So this is the perfect setting for me. And as I kind of pogo around, you can see there's plenty of travel in the shock system. And we've now got that preload dialed in beautifully. All right, so next we're going to take our flathead screwdriver and we're going to dial in the rebound, which is the red side here, and the dampening, which is the blue side here. And the best way to accomplish this is to back these all the way off counterclockwise, and it makes a little click with each little turn. So we'll bring both of these counterclockwise to the starting point, which means now we have no rebound and no dampening set. So the rebound is the springiness in which your wheel kind of pogos back up after being compressed. Let's say you do a curb drop or you hit a bump in the road. As the shock compresses, it's going to rebound you back up. So the more rebound that we have by turning this clockwise, the more spring action you're going to get. Personally, I don't like a whole lot of rebound, and I found 5 to 6 clicks is perfect for my liking. But this is one of those things that you're going to have to make the adjustment, ride the wheel a little bit, see how it feels, and then come back in and fine tune. Very easy to do, just a flathead screwdriver. So we'll give 5 clicks to the right. For you, it may be more or less. Now the dampening can give the suspension a bit more of a squishy feel, and it can also help you from bottoming out. If you're taking jumps, lots of curb drops, stairs, that sort of thing, you're going to want to dial in some compression. If you're mainly just staying on a flat road, you really don't need much of this. You can primarily rely on the shock itself. But I found, again, about 5 clicks clockwise is the right amount of compression for what I'm looking for. So you may want to start out like I did and give it about 5 to 7 clicks on either side. Ride the wheel around. If you find it's a bit too springy, popping you up too quick, then back off that rebound a click or two. And if you find that it feels a bit too squishy, then go ahead and back off the dampening a click or two. Otherwise, you can play with this a little bit and maybe give it another click clockwise and see if that makes an improvement. But again, just ride the wheel around. You're not going to have to mess with the preload anymore. All you need to do now is just fine tune either side. So now you know what all the different components of the Fast Ace shock system in these veteran wheels accomplish. You know how to quickly make a chart and how to attach it to the wheel to dial in the perfect sag for adjusting your preload. And you've got a good idea of where to start adjusting the rebound and the dampening just to fine tune the overall ride feel that you're looking for that matches your ride style. And I recommend when you remove your little cheat sheet and marking stick, just keep it together with the tape. You could throw it into a little Ziploc bag, Maybe have an alcohol prep wipe in there. And we got your Fast Ace dial-in kit ready to go. You can help out a friend. Maybe you gain or lose weight in the future and you got to make some more adjustments to the preload. You got everything you need to get going right here. All right, so now we can replace those covers. And that's all there is to it, my friends. You're now set to go out riding and enjoy a dialed-in wheel. Anyways, I hope this video was helpful for you. If so, I sure would appreciate if you smash that like button. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. New uploads coming every week, and I'm always changing up the content, trying to bring you the most value as I do value your time. So take care, have a good one. Until next time, this is Electrified Rider. Talk to you again soon.